TBCN presents Creating Your Own Job, a new series aimed at providing you with resources and assistance to start your own business. Financial assistance, analyzing the marketplace, marketing strategies, implementing the plan, creating your own job.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, a volunteer host here at Tampa Bay Community Network. Welcome to Creating Your Own Job, a series that brings experts into the arena of starting and growing businesses. A very important thing for all of us to know. Today with us we have Dino Alides, president of DE Incorporated, Joe Rousseau of Donnelly Rousseau, PA, and current president of Small Business Resource Network. It's really good to have an attorney on board. Michael Zaharis, site administrator for the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center. Boy, that's a mouthful there, Michael. And finally, we have with us Steve Vernon, graphic web designer and online marketeer. Boy, that's an important area too. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking really forward to hearing each one of these people. And if you're out of work, or even if you're dissatisfied with the job you now have, this is going to be an important program for you. Dino, would you tell us a little bit about what you bring to this program?
Well, Bill, I've been in business for 20 years myself, and all of that time has been really with home-based business. I've, gone out a few times and had a small office and that sort of thing, but it just didn't make sense to have those kind of resources available to me. The main focus of my business really is taking small business owners and turning them into entrepreneurs. So teaching them the things that they need to know in order to create an asset in their business as opposed to just creating a job for themselves.
I think that's a pretty important thing. Just because someone has a small business really doesn't make them an entrepreneur.
Absolutely, and that's, I think, one of the misnomers that I frequently see, especially in the media. If somebody's opening a business, they call them an entrepreneur all of a sudden. And really, an entrepreneur is somebody that really understands how to grow a business from the startup phase all the way to the point where it can run itself.
Joe, very important man here. There are a lot of legal hurdles. What do you bring to it from the standpoint of small business for this program?
Well, I've been an attorney about 14 years now in Tampa Bay area. My areas of practice are business law, small business practice, business entities. I do a lot of real estate and business contracts and closings. As you said, I'm also the president, the current president of the Small Business Resource Network, which is a group of trusted advisors of accountants, attorneys, business consultants, business insurance, and banking and finance people. And we do a lot of work with the Small Business Development Center, which provides business counseling all over the state of Florida. So from my background, and Dino is also a member of the Small Business Resource Network, we put our resources together to counsel small businesses as best we can here. Yeah.
Wow. That's a really good resource.
Yeah.
Michael, virtual entrepreneur. Wow.
Yes, sir. I'm here today representing the Florida High Tech Corridor Council's Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center, where we focus on giving access to entrepreneurs who are looking for resources, organizations, professional service providers that can best assist them in a given area of business that they're looking to fulfill. I bring experience from a very young age. I've been involved in starting businesses and growing businesses. I have experience in business administration and management, and that would really be my focus. And I'm looking forward to discussing how the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center can benefit the entrepreneurs that are watching the program.
Steve, it's really, for me, it's a delight to have you on the program. I put up my first website in 1984, and my email address goes back to that day, which is older than a lot of the people around. What do you bring today that's new and different?
I was going to say what I bring to the table today is about 30 years of trial and error, but
And all of that's been different, right?
because I first worked for myself back in 1980 when I was introduced to the network marketing industry, and with one of the granddaddies of all of them. And then I've worked for other people off and on for years, and finally when I moved back here to Tampa about eight and a half years ago, I decided, I made the decision then that I did not want to ever have to work for somebody else again. So I had been doing graphic design as part of my other jobs for years, and I decided that it was time to put that out there, use those skills and talents to offer them to the small business owner, which a lot of people don't focus on. I think a lot of graphic designers focus on the large, the large entities, but I wanted to focus on the small local business. And I also took my old network marketing skills and now with the internet, moved them into working with online, and have developed some wonderful relationships literally all the way around the world through the online community. It's an incredible community.
I have almost 3,000 Facebook friends, representing just about every country in the world. I mean, I actually have some from the Arab countries where I didn't even know they allowed the internet to go in and out of.
Yep.
When I was in China, I got to see some of my friends over there, and they're running, and I don't even know what they call that. It's not a real, some kind of server, proxy server.
Yep.
Because they're not supposed to be going all over the world like this.
Right.
But they do.
They do.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I thought this guy actually lived in Britain, and he turns out he's not in Britain at all. He's in Beijing.
Oh.
Wow.
Which is kind of tags off of what you were saying, and of course from your standpoint,
Yes,
from the
sir.
virtual entrepreneur. Let's start out with, what does it take to go into business? Let's start with you, Joe.
Yes, sir. I think all businesses, and I think Dino will agree with me, there's fundamental elements of any business, whether it's going to be a virtual business or brick and mortar business, and it's important to understand that not everybody has all the skills to do everything to succeed in the business. It just can't be just one person. You need a team of people to go ahead and understand, because although you may be good at your trade, sometimes those skills don't equate to the same skills necessary to be successful in business. And it's always important that you build that foundation of trusted advisors and take it step by step, because what I noticed over the years of my practice is that entrepreneurs always go 100 miles an hour. And they'd go from step 1 to step 8, and they skip everything else. And then what happens is, at some point down the road, they have to go back and try to fill in step 2 and step 3. And instead of focusing on expanding or growing the business, they're busy putting out fires. And unfortunately, when I get involved from a legal aspect, it's already the job of putting out fires.
Yeah.
Right,
Instead of firewalls.
Yeah. So I think to start off the conversation it's really important to put together that foundation of just fundamental, with a good team in place, a good team of trusted advisors, of accountants and attorneys and business consultants and marketing experts and all those people. And I think that's the first step. What do you think?
What about a business plan, Dino?
Absolutely. One of the things that I've kind of addressed in some of the tools that we've developed at DE Inc. is really is more of a project plan based kind of a business plan, as opposed to what you normally see. What I find is when business people go out and they search for business plans on the internet, the kind of business plans that they typically run across are the kind that you would use to go to the bank to get some kind of financing or something like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as a small business owner, what I need is a checklist of what are the things I need to be working on today. And if you don't have that skill set and you don't necessarily know how to put that together, it becomes difficult really to understand what it is that you need to do. And the reason that I kind of came across this is when I was in the corporate world, I was a project manager. And so I approach everything like it's a project. And when I really stopped and thought about a business is really a project.
Yes.
You know, you have a defined objective for the year. It has a time frame, you know, January to December that you're trying. So that's just a project. So The business plans that I typically tell small business owners that are just starting to get ready and get going out there is, put that project plan together. Understand what the objectives are that you need to occur, and on what kind of a timeline, and just start working on those things.
I think you made a very important statement, Joe, that most of us, and I've been in small business since 1981, that's the last time I drew a paycheck from anybody besides my customer. We believe we can do everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we spin our wheels an awful lot trying to do everything. I put up my first website, but I'm not real good at website creation or design. And if you look at my website, I'm afraid to tell you, it's probably very, very dated. So we have to keep doing these things, correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
We have to keep looking for people to help us.
Certainly.
How could your organization help us do that?
Well, in particular, the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center, we look at all of the information that exists out on the web, whether it's blog posts, articles, training programs available from the Small Business Development Center, opportunities for workshops from SCORE chapters, and we try to help the entrepreneur get connected with those organizations, so if they're looking to fill the need of developing a business plan, they can connect with the right organization to help them do that. In addition, from my own experience and from talking with entrepreneurs, to echo some of the words that you've talked about, Joe, having that internal board of directors, if you will, the mentor network, individuals who have the expertise in a given area of business. You're the entrepreneur, you're very focused, and yes, you want to be able to tackle everything, but you've got to have that network of individuals that you can go back to and say, I'm having some difficulty here, what would be your recommendation? How could I best approach this area of my business to be successful? And there's nothing more valuable than learning from someone else's experience, and I think that's very important.
Once there was a statement that said, a smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns the mistakes of others.
Right, exactly.
So your ability is to show us where those mistakes were and what worked and what didn't.
Stay away from that.
Right, exactly.
Is it important when someone first goes into business that they have a website in today's world?
Oh, today's world? Absolutely. Absolutely, because the website gives your business credibility. Having some kind of online, it doesn't even matter if it's a one-page, something very simple, but you need to have some kind of online, people are looking for that. You meet somebody at a networking event or in the cafeteria line or the grocery store line, and they notice something about you, get talking, and somehow something comes up about what you do for a living. And the first thing they're going to do is, do you have a business? Oh, do you have a website?
Yep.
And if you say no, they're going to go, oh. So no, absolutely critical. And having a website these days is it's not rocket surgery anymore, like it was back in 1981 when you built yours.
Yeah, nobody even knew what it was. If you could get there.
As I said a while ago, I don't think even Al Gore invented the internet.
That's right, it was well before Al. What do the rest of you feel about putting up a website? How soon, should this be part of the initial planning?
Well, absolutely. Certainly, as Steve said, I think it lends credence to whatever you're promoting from a business aspect. But again, it's an initial step in the process. And the good thing now is it's, as opposed to years ago, it's an inexpensive way to start creating an image for yourself. Right?
Yeah, I have a good example of that. About 2 years, well, right after the earthquake in Haiti. One of my business partners was very stricken by what happened and what he saw in 60 Minutes. And we started an organization. He decided that he wanted to build 5 new cities in Haiti.
Wow.
And the first thing we did was put a website up because we knew as we began to connect with people and begin that process that people were going to vet us, and that was the way they were going to vet us, was out on the internet. So we put that up, and it's amazing. It's 3 guys in Tampa that are trying to do this, but we've gotten approval, and we've been invited in to 4 different locations. People thought we were nuts. 5 cities, you can't even build one. But and we lend a lot. People go out all the time and said, "Yeah, I've been out to your website. I want to talk to you now."
I think really it's that front door for individuals who are running home-based businesses, who are running internet-based businesses, to have that presence out there on the web to say, this is who I am, this is who my company is, and these are the services or products that we offer. Majority of consumers, I'm sure nowadays, are going to the internet first before they probably ever even walk into your physical brick and mortar location. So that web presence.
I cannot remember a time when I looked at the Yellow Pages last.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Exactly.
And yet that was our primary source.
And I didn't mean to
No,
cut
that's
you
okay,
off,
go
but
ahead.
I don't, now with the smartphone and the iPad, I don't even think people look at it from their PC anymore. I mean, it's instantaneous.
Mobile.
Right. It's a matter of if they're looking for a service, and it pops up like that.
In addition, you got the social media outlets, which are so prevalent in everything that we're doing nowadays. Establishing a business page for your company on Facebook, using Twitter and LinkedIn, those are all avenues that you can use, invest your time, but no cost for the service, to promote your company, your business.
Yeah.
Something I've started to do with the smartphone, is there's an app called Bump. And if I go to a networking event, I don't ask for a card anymore. I ask, are you on Bump? And if we just take our phones and bump them together, I'll capture all their information. They'll capture all mine. I guess staying up is important. And if you're not at least willing to put up a website, Steve, you're not staying up, right?
Well, the other thing, like Bump, I'm sure you're all familiar with a thing called the QR code.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Japan has been using it for years.
Yes.
But they're just now becoming prevalent, and I'm encouraging all my clients to get they're free. You go on Google and get yourself a QR code and generate it in seconds. It's free. Right. And put a magnetic sign on the side of your company van. And somebody drives by or sees you at a work job, if you're a contractor or whatever, and they scan that with their iPhone, and there's your website right there. They don't have to remember the URL.
Right.
So it's your business card. That's your online business card anymore.
Yeah, I think another big testament to, do you really need a website or not? Really, even if you look at and you think just yourself, but even old traditional businesses, they find that a lot of their sales are beginning to really kind of decline, and they can't understand why. I'm not finding as much. The phone's not ringing as much as it was before. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because the way that people look for information has changed. Yes. They go to the net. They go to their phone. So they're going to those electronic sources. If you don't have something out there, people will never know you exist.
Well,
so.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, and almost as bad as to have a website that hasn't been updated in 5 years.
Oops.
Right.
I plead guilty to that.
You and I need to talk.
There you go. Well, let's do this. We have people watching the show that either have an idea, have a desire, something. Let's go back to the basics. What do they need to do? And I'll ask you to give one or two ideas each, what they need to do to start putting a plan in practice. We've got to have a plan of some kind or another.
Absolutely.
If they don't know how to develop a plan, what do they do, Dino?
The first thing that you have to do is you got to let it go, okay? It's a good idea in your mind, but who cares? So you have to do market research. That's the first thing. You may think it's a good idea in your head, but you need to ask other people, and you can't ask your friends because your friends are going to. Yeah, well, I don't want to hurt your feeling or anything else. You have to go to the marketplace and ask: is this something that you really want or that you really need? I've spoken to inventors all the time, and they do. They have great ideas, but if there's not a market for what it is that you're trying to sell. Move on. You're going to waste lots of time and lots of
That's right.
Find your market.
That's right. And going with what Dino's explained before, it's when you have that market and you have that idea, now it's where's my objective and what's the beginning part? And the beginning part may be a business entity to work through. A beginning part may be, well, let me get with a CPA that understands how the best way to, because we're all in business at some point to make money. And the idea at the end, of the day is to capture more of each dollar that comes through the door. So it's the business efficiencies that we bring we start up front. Because, like I said, when entrepreneurs go 100 miles per hour, they lose all those business efficiencies because
so look
they
for your
constantly
team.
go
Put
back.
a team in place.
Put the team together
Will
first.
many of these people, Joe, will
objectives.
many of these people, I need a very quick answer.
Yes, sir.
Will many of these people sit down and talk with you pro bono to begin with?
Some will. So, some will. And there's organizations that absolutely do it pro bono.
Okay, Michael?
You have an idea or service you want to bring to market. Oftentimes when you do the initial market research and you look at your competitors, there's often opportunities for niche markets. And that's one thing I try to encourage entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting out. When there may be an existing business or competitor already in that market, look for ways that you can differentiate your products or services to define that niche and bring in revenue through that avenue. In addition, of course, you also have to have the local or county occupational licenses, business tax receipts as you're initially forming your business. So that's something you need to
Don't want to run afoul of the law,
and
right?
then renew and stay on top of to keep your business valid.
Stephen, you must run into a lot of people with great ideas and want to start. What do you tell them when they first come in?
I don't have an answer for that. I really don't have an answer for that. I want to, because I don't have a lot of people coming to me necessarily with, I've got this idea. I really haven't been on that side of it that much. Obviously, you have a lot of people that are out there online that are already trying to market things that maybe there's, you know, but at the same time, I think if you have an idea, if you have this vision and this idea, you've got that for some reason. So there's got to be some kind of need. If you're thinking about it, somebody else is probably thinking about it out there. I remember a specific idea I had a number of years ago about something I thought there'd be a great need for, but I never did anything about it.
Well, doing something about it.
Next thing you know, I found out somebody else had already come up with the idea and it's out there on the market.
Doing something about it is what we're going to do the second half of this show on. We're going to take a short break. I'll be back with my guests, and stay with us because you're going to get some great business ideas and some great thoughts about what you can do to make your life a little better in a home-based business. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and we're talking about home and internet-based businesses. And the internet's a very important thing. You get a lot of information from it. But if I have an idea, what groups, organizations, and places can I go to see what it takes to become an entrepreneur, a businessman? Maybe I've worked for somebody all my life, and I've had a great idea, and it's time for me to branch out. Dino, would you like to give us some ideas where people can go for assistance?
Sure. I mean, there's lots of resources that are available out there. Any of the organizations, like Joe had mentioned earlier, we're both members of the Small Business Resource Network. The organization that we're affiliated with is, right here at the University of South Florida, and the Small Business Development Center. You can get free counseling from that particular organization. They have, very inexpensive training and workshops and things like that are available as well. And I think that's probably just one of the resources that's available even through your organization.
Yeah, as well, the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center does promote all of those organizations, whether it's a Small Business Development Center, an economic development organization, SCORE chapters, the university centers, business incubators. Those are all great opportunities for entrepreneurs to go out and look for networking opportunities, training, workshops, and assistance. Some of them even offer free business counseling. In addition, through our program, we also offer access to free sample business plans. In addition to businesses can actually register and promote themselves on the program completely free. So they become a resource in the database for other entrepreneurs and businesses, again, available at no charge.
SCORE, you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Service Corps of Retired Executives. If I go online, I'll find SCORE.
You'll find a local chapter, I'm sure.
And that's all free, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah,
You might have to pay for some
mentor
materials.
Programs are free
Mentoring.
through SCORE. Some of their workshops you may have to pay, but it's a nominal fee. I don't think any of theirs are more than $20, $30 something.
The Small Business Development
Center
Center
is the same.
Yeah, they have a low cost.
One of the things I've found in small business, and I've been in small business myself, home-based since 1981, is you feel alone. You just feel alone. When you walk into a company and there's 10 other employees there or 20 other employees, you feel like you're part of a group. But you open that door and you say, I am now in business for myself. You're alone. How do I overcome that aloneness?
We talked about Facebook. We mentioned Facebook and the social media. And believe it or not, I don't think people realize that it can be a great source, a great place to build not only business relationships, but good personal relationships. Thanks to Facebook and now thanks to Skype, you know, where I was doing video calls.
Oh, I love Skype.
One of my closest relationships, and now we've been business partners for over a year and a half, is with somebody who lives in South Africa. We have never met in person, but we are like brothers, and we are actually in a project. We've been working on a project together for over a year. And we developed that friendship. We were introduced on Facebook because of a common interest. He did a friend request. I answered it. We ended up working in an international online marketing company for several months together. And because of Skype, we built this relationship. And not only with him, but I have a whole group. We mentioned a blog. We were talking about a blogging tribe earlier offline. I do a weekly blog, and I have joined a blogging tribe.
You know, not everybody knows what a blog is.
A blog is just it's basically an article that you write of something that you are very interested in or that you consider yourself an expert in. Write an article, get out there on WordPress, create a WordPress site, that can be free, and you just start writing and put it out there and post it out there online for people to read. Now there are ways to get it out there where you need to put it out there where it can be seen, but one of the purposes of a tribe, of what they call a blogging tribe, and blog is just short for a web log.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's short, a web log. And it might be something you're just writing thoughts about something. You know, it could be a weblog or a blog can be about anything.
So if somebody just wanted to put one up just for the fun of it,
For the fun of it, sure, there are a lot of
not
those.
business-wise, but they could
Sure.
put it up to get a feel for it.
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure.
Where they're not risking a paycheck or...
Exactly. You can write about anything and put it out there. And there are blogging tribes out there. I happen to belong to one that has several hundred members, about 100 or 150 active members. But our job is to read each other's blogs each week and comment on them, and then we syndicate them out to the various social networks so that it drives traffic back to that person's blog.
Yep.
And we're helping each other. And through that, I have created some great personal relationships. I've people that I consider not close friends, but people that I could call on for business help.
Yep.
Right.
What if I'm not internet savvy, though? What other ways can I make sure that I'm not alone and get better ideas?
I think it's really important for any business to network their business. They have to be in front of people, and you have to go, and you got to get yourself, and Dino will tell you, you got to get yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yes.
It's really easy to say, oh, well, I really should go to this meeting, but you got to get yourself used to going out there, because you are going to be from a sales perspective, you got to go out there and sell it, and you got to be in front of people, and that's really the way of the best marketing tool you'll have.
Well, and a lot of times those networks of businesses and individuals often do business with one another. So you begin to build those relationships,
that's right.
and that group of individuals will do business with one another, promote one another, refer other individuals or businesses to your company as well. So you begin to build that network that you need out there marketing and helping grow your business as well.
And it gets easier, right? The more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, it gets easier and easier to get yourself out of that comfort zone.
I'd put in a plug for Toastmasters International, which is the
Absolutely.
largest nonprofit communications organization in the world.
Yep.
If you want to be comfortable standing in front of a group of people, that's a great place to go and get help.
Yep.
And it's very inexpensive.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. You've got to get out of your comfort zone.
What's interesting, I was watching one of the earlier, a past show on this network not too long ago, and it was one that was filmed about a month or so ago, and one of the guests on there talked about the fact it's not, it used to be it's not what you know, it's who you know, and he was saying it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Right.
Which I thought was priceless. And I think the idea of getting involved in any type of organization, whether it be offline or online, local clubs, church, synagogue, business clubs, chambers of commerce. I was a member for several years of the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce. Served on their board, built probably the most valuable relationships and the closest relationships I've built locally since moving back to Tampa were through the chamber.
Sure.
What do you think
Absolutely.
about chambers? That's a good point, Steve. What do you think about chamber membership? Is not cheap. Does it matter what kind of business you're in, whether you join the chamber or not?
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say, is that it really, when any kind of networking that you're doing, what's critical really in it is understanding who your target market is and what are you really trying to accomplish through what it is that you're doing in that networking. Because you may have 4 or 5 different places that you have to go based off of the people that you need to interact with, because you're going to have different channels. So, for example, I'll give you an idea. Joe had mentioned that he and I are members of the Small Business Resource Network, and the reason that I'm involved in that is because I don't know everything. And so when I run into problems with clients, I need to know a group of people that I can trust to send them to, and so that's what I use that for. But I don't really expect that I'm going to go there to find someone that might be a client of mine from a consulting standpoint. You know, I'm going to go to a different.
To that?
Yes.
There is a fee.
Yes.
Okay, so
You have to be or work in the field.
In one of those five fields, yeah.
disciplines that I mentioned at the
Right.
beginning of the show.
okay.
Yeah.
But what if someone goes to them for help?
Oh, absolutely. That's the point
yeah.
of the
You don't have to
organization.
join to go do that,
Oh,
correct?
absolutely not. No.
Yeah. There's a directory online as well, and you can go and find whatever kind of resources it is that you actually need
Right,
through
so-
the directory.
So the group is made up of all attorneys, accountants, business consultants, business insurance people, bankers and finance people. And so it's a good resource to say,
resource
hey,
network
I
for
need,
small
you know, I'm looking for an accountant local here, and you could go to that.
That's why
resource
it's
and
the
find-
Small Business Resource Network. It's the resource. It's a resource network basically for those. Not that startups wouldn't be good clients necessarily for us. Typically, you know, once somebody's got their business up and operating and they're doing, you know, they kind of graduate from some of the other programs that are free that are out there, and they need somebody that can be that
Right.
advisor, you know, for hire more or less for them, and fill that void that they may have on their management team more or less.
I think it's important for those of us here at the table to keep in mind that many of the people watching the show are people who have been displaced because of the business climate, maybe have run out of funds, have been looking for a job for a long time, and finally said, look, I made a lot of people a lot of money along the way.
That's right.
Why can't I make money for me?
Yep.
They don't have a lot of money to spend on consultants or, I'm sorry, even attorneys. But there are some things that they must do in order to do this right, and prevent, as you said, problems down the wall.
Right.
It's easier to build firewalls
That's right.
than it is to put out a fire.
That's right.
So what do they need to do from your organization standpoint? What does this person sitting out there need to do right now to get themselves in position to go into business for themselves?
Well, I gotta say, I think the first thing that they've got to have is the drive. I mean, you've got to have it in you to be out there in business. You have to have it in you to get knocked down 10 times and to get back up 11. And I think that's going to help define a part of the success of your business is your willingness to persevere and continue moving forward. Build those networks of individuals that I mentioned before. Those networks, you ask questions, you learn from experience, you understand how to make smarter and better business decisions through those networks. The business plan, another key component. You need to have that checklist, objectives, things you want to accomplish with this idea, the services, the products, but understand that as you navigate down that road, your plan will change slightly, and that's okay too. It's not written in stone. You don't have to stay exactly to it, but you will also, you also, as you grow, you expand that plan, you add to that plan. Then looking at, potentially depending on the business that you're running, you may need funding. There are angel investment networks, venture capitalists, there are banks. There are
really. What's an angel investment network?
That's a network of investors who you would go and present your company to, and if they like the idea or the concept, they would choose to invest in your business.
Could I find them through your organization?
Yes, sir. We have angel investment networks, venture capitalists, banking, local banks. Peer-to-peer networks, that's another big one where individuals invest directly in companies and ideas. We have access to all that information through the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center.
Yep.
So if I have a good plan, I have a good product, but I don't have the money. There is the potential. I know going to a bank now and asking for money is not one of the things I want to do. But your organization might put me in touch with people that could do that?
We have the directory in place to get you connected with the right angel investment network or venture capitalist available here in Florida.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things I would warn people is, you know, if you think that the only way you're going to make your business succeed is I have to have this money, you've defeated yourself before you even start. There's more than one way to solve a problem, and you have to be a good problem solver if you're going to be in business for yourself. And so, you know, look at it from a standpoint not only of this is the way that I would like to do it, you know, and if I have all of this and I can find this money, I can do it, but also find other avenues or think, how would I do this if I had no money? And now all of a sudden the plan changes, right. And the way that I'm going to approach this completely changes as well. Because I see too many people struggling, and you know, these are people that I've run into in networking events 2 years ago that have a good idea, but they're only going to do it that one way. And I see them 2 years later, and they're still looking for money. You know, so you got to make sure that, you know, you got a plan A and a plan B, and that plan B may be. And I want to go back to something that Mike said, because I think it's really important. That passion and that drive is the first thing that I do. I just wrote an ebook for startups, and that's one of the first things that we actually say in there is like, look, stop everything else. I don't care what your idea is. Why do you want to do this? In your heart of hearts, what is it? Because that's what's going to get you to work 14 to 16 hours a day.
It's not easy. That's
you know,
right.
7 days a week,
That's
and
right.
not care what anyone tells you you can't do it. You're gonna move past all of that stuff. So that's probably the most critical point.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. When you said the drive, I think even more critical than that is you have got to find out. You can't start your own business just with the idea, well, I got to start a business so I can make some money.
Right.
You can't do that because you will fall on your face and you will quit in 24 hours.
That's right.
You've got to find out, figure out, the first thing you've got to figure out is what is your passion? What is it that I would just die to be able to do and to accomplish? You know, what is it I truly love in life, and what is it that I would like, you know, what is it that I have that I can give to the world, or what can I do to offer something new to the world, or whatever. That's right. And go after it, you know. One author that I have read quite a bit of talks about, you know, creating the vision, and don't worry too much about what he calls the cursed hows right now.
Right.
Get that vision of exactly what it is you want to do, or get an idea of where you want to be, and the how-tos will sort of come to you. Yep. You know, you will meet, then put yourself out there where you're going to, in organizations, you know, a club of some kind, a chamber of commerce, there's Free Networking International, which holds networking events all over. You know, go to them free, even the chambers of commerce. You can visit a couple of networking events for nothing. Yep. Or you know, a Rotary Club or a Lions Club. Get somebody who's a member of one of those organizations. Visit their club a couple times and find if that's your niche. Yep. But know what it is that your passion is, and then go after that. And if people see your passion,
that's right.
You don't have to worry about asking them for help. They're going to be stepping in and saying, God.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Steve, because actually, more of my clients are business owners that have been in business for years, that just keep hitting the wall and they can't figure out why they go over it. And that's the first thing that I do with them, because 9 chances out of 10, what it's done, they've lost the passion that they had for their business in the beginning. And that's why their business stagnates and stales. So, you know, over time, just like Joe says, you get too far down the road, you forgot why you started in the first place. And so by doing the things that we're talking about here, I think, you know, finding out what that passion really is, and then putting the roadmap together, and then just knock those walls down as you go. You know, it won't take you long that you'll be on the other side.
I heard somebody say one time, the most important question we can ever ask ourselves is, I want to know what I want. You know,
it's a very good question.
That's a great question. I want to know what I want. But once you know that, then everything else begin to fall in place. But you have to leave yourself open to that. You have to make yourself available for those opportunities by putting yourself out there among other people, whether it be offline or online.
Yep.
You know, and so.
Let's talk about the areas that people can go into business for themselves. I mean, we can always become a plumber, we can become an electrician, we can become a doctor, or even a lawyer.
Sure.
But for a lot of us, we don't have the background, we don't have the training. We're good with people, maybe we have the gift of gab. What are some of the things that people can do to go into business for themselves, the areas?
Well, I think Steve nailed it. I mean, you find your passion, right, and then you work backwards from there, right?
The choices are unlimited these days. I mean, they literally are unlimited. I'm a huge fan of Google. I spend a good portion of my time when I'm online on Google looking for stuff. And there are all kinds of resources out there for home-based businesses. There's a home-based business magazine that you can subscribe to or even get to online, and just start reading that magazine, and maybe ideas will come to you, you know, and resources. But today, to ask what a person can do, I think is, you can do anything. And people
what should we
are doing
be wary of then? Let's look at it from a little different angle. I remember a long time ago, one of my clients was Amway, and Amway took a bad rap. Jay Van Andel, they took a bad rap. They really did provide a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. Their marketing, a little sketchy, and maybe it was a try in that direction.
Right.
But I also see almost every day somebody coming on Facebook or somewhere saying, be part of our group. Yep. We can make $1 million this next week. You won't have to do anything, work 2 hours a week. And I've found in small business, you really only have to work half days. It doesn't matter which 12 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
It's true.
What do we have to do? What should we be looking at if I'm thinking about going in? I need to do something. Now, my passion is I love people, and I think I can go out there and I can convince people to do a lot of different things. But what are some of the, especially from a legal standpoint, what do I need to look at?
Well,
there's a lot of hooks out there and a lot of bait.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and the first thing you want to think about, if you have an objective and you know what your plan is going to be, the first thing you need to look at is what type of business entity you're going to work through. Because what you try to do is you try to separate your personal assets from your business assets, right? And we call those business entities limited liability entities, whereby you create a separate person in the eyes of the law, for example, a corporation or a limited liability company, apart from you. And what the law does is separate the two individuals. Now you just work for the company. And your assets, if you do everything correctly, your assets, your personal assets are then protected because your business assets are separate from you. So when you go ahead and you start running your business through this business entity, if there is a lawsuit, which is, if you're in business law, it's coming, don't fool yourself. It's the assets of the business that are at issue and not your personal assets. So when a client comes to me and we start analyzing where they're going to go from a business standpoint, the first step we look at is how do we reduce your exposure. Some businesses have very limited exposure, and you can handle that through business insurance. Some businesses have a little more exposure, so we want to make sure we put them into a business entity, not only for the limited liability protection, but there's also a lot of tax benefits to be run through your business through a business entity. So those are the initial steps that we first take. We kind of analyze what they're doing, where their exposure is, what type of exposure is there, and then we slowly place them into the correct business entity, and we talk about business insurance and things like that.
What kinds of, I know I incorporated in the state of Florida, but it was S-Corp or something. Truly, I don't understand the business side of this when it comes to some of this corporate and tax law. Fortunately, I have a son that's an accountant. And
there you go.
But he's up in Ohio, and he keeps telling me Florida's different.
Well,
but what are some of these different entities that one can go? You go with the sole proprietorship, right?
Well, you certainly don't. You would. My suggestion is you never would want to run anything out of a sole proprietorship, only because there's no limited liability protection there.
Okay.
So you have to create this limited liability entity to obtain the limited liability protections. The S-Corp, for example, is a taxing designation by the IRS. Your corporation is a Florida state issued charter. So even though they run on parallel tracks to each other, they're really separate things. So
Separate things.
The two separate things, because when you file, for example, if we use a corporation as an example, if you file your articles of incorporation with the state of Florida, the IRS sees you as a C corp, and until you actually ask the IRS that you want to be an S corp. So you could see that there is a little, there's differences between the two, and to go through, I mean, we don't have enough time to explain the different types of business entities and the different types of tax benefits you would get from each business entity.
That's what one should ask. when
That's
one
what
sits
you,
down with an
well,
advisor.
absolutely, and that's what we try to analyze up front and put that together, so at the end of the day, you're getting the most benefits you can from both the limited liability protection from your entity and the best tax treatment you can get from a taxing standpoint.
We had a program here not too long ago that we talked about scams that people were having perpetrated upon them. And it was very interesting, and it was brought up that there were many, many business scams to get people to invest money or put money into things. What, from your experience, are things that people ought to be very, very careful about if someone comes to them with an idea?
I would honestly say if anybody presented an idea that seems skeptical, I would go out and do some research on the internet. 9 times out of 10, you're going to find someone else that's been presented the same or a similar opportunity. And again, learning from their experience, did it work, did it not work? What was their results is something that I think any entrepreneur or business owner presented with an opportunity should do that due diligence
You have
to get
to
started.
do your due diligence. And you have to, the first thing
Are there
that
some
comes in
red
my
flags?
mind, if it sounds, what's the old saying? If it sounds
good
too
to
good,
be true.
I mean, it
Probably
absolutely is, because don't fool yourself. This is a lot of hard work. And if somebody's presenting something, oh, it's going to be easy, it's not. And so right away, my radar goes up. Oh, this is easy.
Well, that, and if they require any kind of funds up front,
That's right.
that doesn't mean it's not legitimate. I mean, there are companies out there, very well renowned companies, Amway being one of them. I mean, you do have to buy into it because you have to buy a sales kit, that kind of stuff. And there are companies that do that, but those are well-founded companies, and there are some wonderful opportunities out there. The opportunities online, especially, and a lot of people may not want to be online, but if you're interested in online, any kind of online business or network marketing or whatever kind of thing, there are wonderful opportunities out there. The companies that have been around for years, and you may have to pay a small fee but for the most part, if they say you have to, pay a certain fee before you can join or whatever, or before you can do anything. That may not be a bad thing, but you definitely want to stop
Look
saying
into it. Be a flag to look at.
into it, yes.
Look into it.
Yeah.
And if they start pressuring you to say, no, you can only do it right now, that's even, then walk away.
Limited
at that
time
particular
opportunity,
point.
yes, yeah.
I'd like to go back to something that you asked a little earlier,
Okay.
Bill, in terms of, what's something if someone's, kind of desperate, they're really kind of looking out there, they don't know what to do, they feel like they're at their last end. Back in 2000, 2001, when the whole .bomb bust kind of came around, I was involved in a number of different organizations, and I actually had gone back to corporate America and was going through, and I was looking for a job, and that's when I kind of said, you know what, stop. I made more money when I was on my own than I did before. So if you're in that kind of a situation, some of it may just be a matter of, what did you do before for someone else? There's people that are looking for those kind of services from you, and it's just a matter of going out and finding a few people, find a few projects that you can do for somebody else, and and there you go. You're already kind of down the path of potentially having your own business. Another place that is pretty good for really looking at too is, what's your hobby?
Yes.
If you could if you could do anything in the world, what would you really want to do? Why can't you make that your business? I mean, now all of a sudden you found, that's the easy way actually to find your passion.
Well,
What's your hobby?
then you're not really going to work every day. You're doing what you enjoy
That's
doing.
right, you're
it's-
playing.
That's how I got into
business.
graphic
But remember,
web
you have to
design.
make money at some point at it.
Yeah.
Or the IRS says,
That's
you're
right.
not a business anymore. You're a hobby.
gonna
Right.
say,
So
that's how I got into-
eventually you have to make money, right?
Well, and I think it's important to also consider too, we talked a little bit about how you need to protect yourself, your personal assets versus your business assets, but also the brand that you develop. You have a name, you have a logo, you may even have a slogan. There are patents, copyrights, trademarks that you need to pay attention to ensure that someone else doesn't take the good work that you're doing.
Right.
And you can go to the internet again and do the research on that, figure out the appropriate paperwork you would need to file. You can find that information through the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center. We have that as well. You can consult an intellectual property attorney about the appropriate strategies and things that need to be in place to protect yourself. The other thing I would recommend doing, and you hear about this in the news very often, check for the .com. See if it's available, the name that you're thinking of starting.
Yes.
Right.
Look on the social media sites. Check to see that those are still available before you register and put out money for something that somebody else has already obtained.
Yeah, because you could get yourself in a lot of trouble very quickly by infringing on somebody's because if you're talking about an internet-based business, or even now, because web, you have to have a web presence.
Yep.
You have to look at that kind of stuff, because you could easily step in it if you're not careful, and then it's coming after you, because a lot of big companies, they take their intellectual property very seriously. It's very valuable to them, and they will fire a cease and desist letter real fast if they feel that you're infringing on their rights.
That has even happened to big companies who have stepped in and thought they were okay, and they
right.
find out they're using.
You have to do
some little companies.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You brought up two great things. One is the copywriting and trademark.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I spoke with, because of a project I've been working on, I had a meeting several months ago with an intellectual properties attorney. We were talking about the copyright and trademark, the logo, and that kind of thing.
Right.
And we didn't have the capital at the time to really do all the stuff we needed to do. And as he said, there are things that you can do. You can actually do what they call a common law trademark or copyright that will protect you for a certain period of time, which doesn't really cost you anything.
Right. One thing, it actually, just by having your stuff out there in the stream of commerce, provides you certain rights.
Yes.
And I'm not an intellect, I don't pretend to be an intellectual property attorney. It's a very specific, specialized area of law. But intellectual property rights are what we call negative rights, meaning that once the registrations happen and you are registered, your trademark, now you can stop other people thereafter from infringing on your rights. Until then, and if somebody was using your stuff before you registered, you can't stop them. So the idea is to get your stuff out in the stream of commerce and then do your registration, because it's like a first in time, first in right type of concept. And that's, I think, what your attorney was talking about when he said in common law.
Well, he said even if you just put copyright, if I'm writing an article or if I'm writing like rules for a game or something like that, simply put copyright such a year and some kind of legal entity, even if it's your name. Now, I'm not giving legal advice here. I'm just saying I'm sharing what anybody obviously needs to check this with an attorney, preferably an intellectual attorney. But my understanding was, even if I simply put there copyright 2012, Steve L. Vernon, that is what they call a common law copyright, and that would protect me to some limited amount, for a period of time until I get everything registered. The other thing you mentioned too, if I may, the domain name.
Oh, huge.
If you've got an idea or a name for a company or whatever, grab that domain. They're only, I mean, you can go to GoDaddy or any of these registration places and get them for like $10, $12 a year. But a piece of advice, don't go searching on GoDaddy or somebody for a domain name and then say, okay, well, I'll come back next week and get it. Because there are actually people out there who, I actually had a friend of mine this happened to. He said he was going to get a certain domain. And he searched it, found it was available, said, okay, well, I'll come back and take care of that. Came back and he let it go, came back a couple of weeks and somebody grabbed it up, because there are people actually out there online who are searching this. And if they see a search for that name, they'll grab it up. And it's unavailable. Go ahead and get it. Get the package.com.org.info.
Make sure it's available.
Well, you can't get it if it's available, but make sure. Steve, but go ahead and buy it. Then.
Very good point. I don't want to gloss over that, because you might get .com, but there's all these others that .org, .usa, whatever, and you really need, if it's something very important to you, spending the extra few dollars to get those other domains. And even if there's a common misspelling,
Yes.
of what
Yep.
Yep.
we just started something called Friends en Route, Friends IN Route. But we also went with EN and then took all the endings on it because we knew somewhere around the world, again, you guys bring up, this is worldwide, if I'm in France, it's going to be Friends en Route.
Right.
Yes.
And it's EN rather than, so we went with both. So if you have a common misspelling, wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Yes.
You want to be sure to do that?
Or you might, something might be available, or you might have a company name or name that you want to use and it's not available in that form. Get it in a different form. Maybe put a dash between two of the words, or like mine, the domain originally I wanted was dolphingroup.com, but that wasn't available, so it became dolphingrouponline.com. That was just, and that's not an ad. It was just, this,
Right, yeah.
it was just
The way it
another
was.
domain we had,
Yeah.
what we wanted wasn't available, so we had to put a dash between two of the words. That was available, so we bought the whole package.
I did the same thing. I have a blog that was all about small business growth, and that was but smallbusinessgrowth.com was already taken.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking to you, so I just put yoursmallbusinessgrowth.com, and I was able to get that.
You might have to
one.
put
And
the
I mean, it's
word
like-
"the" in front
right.
of it, or take the word "the" out of it. Sure.
Absolutely.
So, but my point was, if you've got a domain
Grab
that's
it.
available, grab it then. Grab it then, right away.
One last thing then. Each one of you quickly, one last thing you want to leave the program with people being sure they hear it. Michael?
The thing I would say is have integrity in the business that you're representing. It's your brand, it's you as an individual, it's you as a business. Have integrity in what you're doing, believe in the business and the idea, and have that drive. Don't lose that passion and you will be successful.
Joe?
I think whatever you're going to do is you make sure you build that solid business foundation, and you get involved with those networks and those advisors, and you start it right from the beginning, and then it'll take off that way.
Very, very important.
Yep.
I guess I would say become a disciple of business. A lot of people get into business and they don't realize that.
That's interesting. Explain that.
And what I mean by that is most people, when they start a business for a job. But they don't learn all of the aspects of business that they really need to understand in order to really be able to grow the business over time. And that's really, that's really what DE Inc. was all about, was, learning and providing people, in a layman's language to learn the things. You don't have to go to, get an MBA from, a major university in order to do this stuff. So.
Stephen or Steve?
I would agree with both. Develop that passion, find out what that passion is, go for it, but also develop, and this is a constant challenge for me because I'm a free spirit, but I've developed the discipline to become a disciple of business, get everything in place. And it's just sort of pull those things together. But it does take discipline, it does take and be ready for challenges.
Hard work.
Read, right?
Read.
Stay up.
Yes.
Watch webinars. They're all over the internet.
Yeah.
They are interactive.
I go to YouTube for every question I have.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
If I have a question, I go to YouTube for it.
Absolutely.
Now, whether it'll be a good
You don't know what the answer's going to be.
but at least I go there and I find it.
Right,
Yeah.
and you've got these organizations that we've talked about today who are producing webinar series every month
Absolutely.
on specific
educate
topics, whether
yourself.
it's social
That's right.
media, starting your business, running a home-based business. Look those up, get engaged, interact with the individuals that are putting those programs on.
Well, gentlemen, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've given me a lot of information, and I've been in business for a long time. Our program on home and internet-based businesses. Dino, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Joe,
Thank you.
shared some good opportunities for us. I'm really interested in what you do, and I'm going to look some more of that up, Michael.
Thank you.
And we will meet, Steve.
Thank you.
I
It's
think
been
it'd be
fun.
important to have you looked at my website,
Okay.
please. This is pro bono, right?
To look at it, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bill Hodges. This has been a program on home and internet-based businesses, and I hope you've found some great information. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, and we'll see you again very soon.